Warning: sensitive images.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Nonviolence is a power which can be wielded equally by all, provided they have a living faith in the God of love and have therefore equal love for all mankind. Please continue watching for more inspiration from our beloved Gandhiji, vegetarian.
Vegan, otherwise risk being looked down upon.
Shukriya is how people say thank you in Kashmir to show their appreciation. Noble viewers, I am Bahir. The amicable people of Kashmir are inspired by your noble virtues. May you find inner peace and serenity in the grace of the divine. Born Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the man who came to be known as the Great Soul or Mahatma Gandhiji, was an exemplary spiritual practitioner and visionary leader of India. Born in 1869, this passionate servant of humanity first became a lawyer. However, he felt a different calling from within as he discovered a fervent wish to improve the lives of all people. The beloved Mahatma Gandhiji sometimes spoke about desired changes in government. However, he would meditate and fast to encourage a non-violent and beneficial outcome. He thus became an example of peaceful change for an entire country. In his book, All Men Are Brothers, Mahatma Gandhiji humbly reflects on his own life and inner realizations as a way to illustrate the unity of our global spiritual family. In one passage, he describes faith as a divine principle within us all, regardless of religion. It is faith that steers us through stormy seas, faith that moves mountains, and faith that jumps across the ocean. That faith is nothing but a living, wide-awake consciousness of God within. He who has achieved that faith wants nothing. Bodily diseased, he is spiritually healthy. Physically poor, he rolls in spiritual riches. Now we would like to share with you Mahatma Gandhi's eloquent thoughts from the book All Men Are Brothers. Chapter 4: Ahimsa, or the Way of Non-Violence. In the application of Satyagraha, a policy of passive political resistance, I discovered in the earliest stages that pursuit of truth did not admit of violence being inflicted on one's opponent, but that he must be weaned from error by patience and sympathy. For what appears to be truth to the one may appear to be error to another, and patience means self-suffering. So the doctrine came to mean vindication of truth, not by infliction of suffering on the opponent, but on oneself. In this age of wonders, no one will say that a thing or idea is worthless because it is new. To say it is impossible because it is difficult is again not in consonance with the spirit of the age. Things undreamt of are daily being seen. The impossible is ever becoming possible. We are constantly being astonished these days at the amazing discoveries in the field of violence. But I maintain that far more undreamt of and seemingly impossible discoveries will be made in the field of non-violence. Man and his deed are two distinct things. It is quite proper to resist and attack a system, but to resist and attack its author is tantamount to resisting and attacking oneself. For we are all tarred with the same brush, and are children of one and the same Creator, and as such the divine powers within us are infinite. To slight a single human being is to slight those divine powers, and thus to harm not only that being, but with him the whole world. Non-violence is a universal principle, and its operation is not limited by a hostile environment. Indeed, its efficacy can be tasted only when it acts in the midst of and in spite of opposition. Our non-violence would be a hollow thing and nothing worth if it depended for its success on the goodwill of the authorities. The only condition of successful use of this force is a recognition of the existence of the soul as apart from the body and its permanent nature. And this recognition must amount to a living faith and not a mere intellectual grasp. Some friends have told me that truth and non-violence have no place in politics and worldly affairs. I do not agree. I have no use for them as a means of individual salvation. Their introduction and application in everyday life has been my experiment all along. No man could be actively non-violent and not rise against social injustice no matter where it occurred. Passive resistance is a method of securing rights by personal suffering. It is the reverse of resistance by arms. When I refuse to do a thing that is repugnant to my conscience, I use soul force. For instance, the government of the day has passed a law which is applicable to me. I do not like it. If by using violence I force the government to repeal the law, I am employing what may be termed body force. If I do not obey the law and accept the penalty for its breach, I use soul force. It involves sacrifice of self. Everybody admits that sacrifice of self is infinitely superior to sacrifice of others. Moreover, if this kind of force is used in a cause that is unjust, only the person using it suffers. He does not make others suffer for his mistakes. Men have before now done many things which were subsequently found to have been wrong. No man can claim that he is absolutely in the right or that a particular thing is wrong because he thinks so, but it is wrong for him so long as that is his deliberate judgment. It is therefore clear that he should not do that which he knows to be wrong and suffer the consequence whatever it may be. This is the key to the use of soul force. A votary of ahimsa cannot subscribe to the utilitarian formula of the greatest good of the greatest number. He will strive for the greatest good of all and die in the attempt to realize the ideal. He will therefore be willing to die so that the others may live. He will serve himself with the rest by himself dying. The greatest good of all inevitably includes the good of the greatest number, and therefore he and the utilitarian will converge in many points in their career, but there does come a time when they must part company and even work in opposite directions. The utilitarian, to be logical, will never sacrifice himself. The absolutist will even sacrifice himself. You might of course say that there can be no non-violent rebellion and there has been none known to history. Well, it is my ambition to provide an instance, and it is my dream that my country may win its freedom through non-violence. And I would like to repeat to the world times without number that I will not purchase my country's freedom at the cost of non-violence. My marriage to non-violence is such an absolute thing that I would rather commit suicide than be deflected from my position. I have not mentioned truth in this connection, simply because truth cannot be expressed except by non-violence. The accumulated experience of the past 30 years the first 8 of which were in South Africa, fills me with the greatest hope that in the adoption of non-violence lies the future of India and the world. It is the most harmless and yet equally effective way of dealing with the political and economic wrongs of the downtrodden portion of humanity. I have known from early youth that non-violence is not a cloistered virtue to be practiced by the individual for peace and final salvation, but it is a rule of conduct for society if it is to live consistently with human dignity and make progress towards the attainment of peace, for which it has been yearning for ages past. Non-violence is a power which can be wielded equally by all, children, young men and women, or grown-up people, provided they have a living faith in the God of love and have therefore equal love for all mankind. When non-violence is accepted as the law of life, it must pervade the whole being and not be applied to isolated acts. If we are to be non-violent, we must then not wish for anything on this earth which the meanest or the lowest of human beings cannot have. The principle of non-violence necessitates complete abstention from exploitation in any form. My resistance to war does not carry me to the point of thwarting those who wish to take part in it. I reason with them. I put before them the better way and leave them to make the choice. I would say to my critics to enter with me into the sufferings, not only of the people of India, but of those, whether engaged in the war or not, of the whole world. I cannot look at this butchery going on in the world with indifference. I have an unchangeable faith that it is beneath the dignity of man to resort to mutual slaughter. I have no doubt that there is a way out.
Do they like to be killed? No. Do we need them as food? No. Is it good for you? No. Is it good for the earth? No. The Honorable Mariana Teamer, vegan.
Compassionate viewers, it's been a pleasure to have your company on today's Words of Wisdom. Coming up next is Coming Together to Celebrate Supreme Master Ching Hai Day, Part 8 of 10, right after Noteworthy News. In the infinite care of the Providence, may all your noble aspirations be realized.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/WOW.
저희 방송은 다양한 언어를 제공합니다. 다음을 참고하세요. suprememastertv.com/schedule 그리고 suprememastertv.com/WOW